Right. Hello and welcome to the City and Southern Section Finals version of the VST Roundup. As always, I'm Archibald Sarian. I got Kenny Hodges with me. Kaylee Harden is back. And making his debut on the Roundup, we got Ricky Kuhn. This was an amazing week of football. We've been saying it just keeps getting better and better. And it was statement week for all four Valley teams that were playing. They just went out and put their stamp and said, "This is who we are," and the city runs through the Valley, pretty much. And we'll just jump right on into it. I'm going to start in the southern section. Sierra Canyon just started the season rough, and then they decided they were going to play some football, and they were untouched the rest of the way. They ran over Inglewood. The scoreline doesn't indicate what it really was. It was a 23-7 win. Inglewood really couldn't do anything. In the open division and city section, Birmingham proved all of the doubters across the city wrong. Everybody thought it was a down year for them, except us. And they came out 42-13. They could have had a running clock at halftime if they wanted. That's where they were at. And then in D1, Granada Hills was the number 1 seed, and they did what they were supposed to do. They stomped on Palisades. It was 44-7. And in what was our game of the week, Kennedy, the number 8 seed, upsetting Panorama, was the number 3 seed. And this was a rematch of their league battle that ended the regular season. Kennedy came out on top in this one, 22-21. It literally went down to the wire. We'll go in depth on that in a minute. But it was amazing. Kenny, you got some notes.
Yes. So starting in the southern section, big time win for Sierra Canyon, sort of really establishing themselves as the team here in the southern section in terms of the Valley schools. Their first year in the Mission League, they win the Mission League, and then they turn around and then they put on a great performance after great performance, leading up to this game against Inglewood, where, like you said, Inglewood really wasn't in the game. Dane Dunn had another good game for Sierra Canyon. Sort of this postseason has been a coming out party for him and letting people know that there's still 2 more years of him that you're going to have to deal with Sierra Canyon going forward, and a great win for them. Moving on to Birmingham and Open, just a statement win all the way around for Birmingham. We'll get more in depth on that game, so I won't pontificate too much, but it was a game that lets you know that I don't think that this run of dominance for Birmingham is ending anytime soon. Moving on to Division 1, my biggest notes coming out of that game for Granada Hills is this is the team that they had been all year, and it did not stop in the championship. Dijon Stanley continuing to be a dominant force in the city section, may have locked up the city section player of the year with this performance in the championship. It's going to be hard not giving that him not coming away with that award, but a great win all the way around for them. Moving on to the Division 2 championship game, that Panorama Kennedy was a classic. It was classic. It was a rematch from the regular season finale. Both teams kind of had their eye on this being a potential matchup in the championship, and Kennedy was able to exact revenge from that loss that they suffered at the end of the regular season. Great play on both sides. This game really was a back and forth battle that could have went either way. And Kennedy walks away with their first ever city championship. So congratulations to Cassidy, Troy Cassidy, and that staff over there, and accomplishing something for Kennedy that hadn't been done before. So the final version of brackets by the numbers, as we came into this week, we have 4 teams remaining going into championship week. playing across three of the championship games. We didn't have a representative in the Division III championship. Congratulations to Crenshaw. I called it. But in those three other games that we had, we walked away with championships in each. Obviously, in Division II, we were guaranteed a champion because that was the All Valley Bowl. That was All Valley matchup. But with Granada Hills and Birmingham both winning their game, being successful in their championship games, the Valley for back-to-back seasons has taken 3 of the 4 city championships, further establishing that the Valley is the epicenter of all things great in high school football in the city section. So they need to start putting some more respect on our name. And that's what I got. That's what I got for my news and notes for this week. Obviously, congratulations to our Valley teams that took championships, and we're going to dig further into them now.
And before we throw it over to Ricky to start us off with the open division game, I got to throw some love at the geniosity of Kenny. You called 3 of the 4 champions. I believe you were 3 of 4. Yeah,
I ended up going 2 of 4.
Oh.
I ended up going 2 out of 4. But that's only because, and I'm sure the next time I come across,
Panorama.
Yeah, because if Panorama had won that game, I would have had 3 out of 4. But you know what? It's an All Valley matchup. I'm okay with taking the L there because either way, to me, we all win. So, but I ended up officially 2 out of the 4.
Still impressive. I mean, you were there. Your geniosity shines through. We will touch on that more and more as we go. But we're gonna throw it right into Ricky and this beatdown of Garfield, who was not a pushover coming in. But Ricky, you've been following Birmingham all season. You were there for the rough start all the way through as they realized they are who they believed they were. Take it away.
Yeah, I like what you said there. Who they are, who they believe they were. And I talked to head coach Jim Rose before the season started, and obviously losing some big players. Very young team, losing Arla Sportingham, who was Player of the Year last year, going to a D1 program. But Coach Rose made sure to not say that they were worse or wouldn't be able to play well this year, if not better. He just made sure to say that they were younger and that they were more inexperienced. And he said that was really going to be the key to this season, is making sure that those guys who just hadn't gotten the reps yet, hadn't gotten the experience, the key was going to be them learning how to play football at a high level and especially executing. That being said, those first 4 games were certainly kind of a shock to this young team. Going 0-4, they certainly lacked an identity. In the beginning, they were extremely pass reliant. Almost every single play was going to be a pass from the sophomore quarterback, Kingston Tisdale, to Peyton Waters. Many times it was forced. Peyton Waters is such a talented player that it worked a lot of the time, but it certainly wasn't sustainable, and it was extremely difficult to execute when everybody knew exactly who it was going to. And at the end of the 4th game, their loss against, let's see who it was, against Westlake, they lost 32-12. They really had a better chance than that. They really didn't play super well. And I was speaking to Coach Rose, and he just said, we're not playing like we should be. We're not executing. These guys are looking ahead. They're not looking to the next game. And if we have any chance, this bye week, we need to get that mentality into our heads. And that certainly did happen. They were heavily penalized in the first 4 games. That changed after the bye week. They decided to start running everything through the run game. Specifically, they kind of had this 3-headed monster of Naeem Morgan, who had quite a game last night, Ronell Hewitt, who is only a freshman and goes to speak to just how talented they can be in the coming years. And also just running a direct snap plays to Peyton Waters, who, once you get the ball in his hands, is such a dynamic player. He can make anything happen. But doing everything through that, taking some of the pressure off Kingston Tisdale, making sure that he's talented enough where he can make the throws, but just not putting so much pressure on him to carry the offense every single time. And also keep the other side guessing that, it might not just go to Peyton Waters every time, which was how other teams had been playing them. At the same time, also really dominating time of possession. I think that was a really big thing. Coach Rose wanted to dominate the line of scrimmage. He said, it's one in the trenches. We need to play like that. And so that was certainly something that got much better throughout the season, especially last night. Some of the holes for Naeem Morgan, who in the first half had 225 yards on 13 carries, averaging 17.3 yards per carry. He had 3 touchdowns in the first half, 2 60-plus yard runs. Some of the holes that he had were just unbelievable, mostly because of this offensive line who has really stepped up and made it the point of the game that they want to focus on. That's what they want to dominate. But also just the attention that goes to a player like Peyton Waters having to be double team no matter where he is. If he comes out of the backfield, if he lines up in slot, if he lines up wide, that really took some pressure off of the run game. And so I think that's something that has seen such an improvement. Obviously, Naeem Morgan had probably like the game of the season, at least that I've seen from him. Ronell Hewitt is also an extremely talented back. Throughout the season, there were games where the two of them would each have 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. But it's just really fascinating to see that, you have a player like Peyton Waters who can do it all, and it makes sense to kind of have him as the center of the offense. But for Coach Rose to take a step back and say, look, like, if that's not how we're winning, then that's not how we're going to play. And luckily, when you have other talent on the field, it takes a lot of pressure off of that style. And nothing to take away from Peyton Waters. He certainly still shined last night, taking a couple snaps in the backfield, but also there was one play where he, on the first pass of the game for Birmingham, they'd already scored 14 points, just hitting him one-on-one on a slant pass and him just taking it to the house for 60 yards after the catch. When you can beat a team in multiple ways, it's really impressive, and it's not something that they had at the beginning of the season. And certainly, I think I give a lot of props to Coach Rose for changing this team's identity right after that bye week.
Before we go deeper into that, can we just pause for a moment and revel at the glory of what happened on that one play? Peyton Waters was double teamed the entire game. And the one play he wasn't double teamed, he goes on a slant, and Tisdale hits him in stride, and he's gone. Just, it's their connection between the two of them, quarterback and wide receiver. And then the fact that he just needed a little bit of space. He didn't have that much. He had the space, made the reception, and was gone.
He quite literally had the amount of space of having a hula hoop around his body.
And to kind of further play off of Ricky's point from talking about kind of like the sort of the evolution in that offense and in that the chemistry with those two, right? They spent a lot of time early in the season forcing that, right? Where Tisdale's not even coming off his first read. He's just trying to force everything to Peyton Waters. And yeah, that served as a bit of a detriment. But as the two of them kind of sort of progressed in terms of the chemistry in that relationship, is understanding that we may only get a chance maybe once, twice, maybe 3 times in a game to kind of hit this particular play. It might come once, but we have that connection that we understand that the first time that they don't double you, I know you're going to get across the face of that DB. I know you're going to get open, and I'm going to put that ball between your numbers, and that's a touchdown. So that's sort of the evolution of where that relationship has gone in terms of like understanding that when the opportunity arises, we can hit that play at any given moment, but we just don't need to force it. We can play off that run game. We can take what the defense has given us, and maybe we have a connection a couple times a game. Maybe we get the one, but it's gonna go to the house if as soon as it's there. It's almost like an unspoken thing. I'm almost certain that Tisdale probably came under center, and as soon as he saw it, there was probably the nod or a signal that this is where it's coming. You know it's coming to you. Like you don't even have to ask. Like the double team's not there. They messed up. They were supposed to double you the entire game. That's what like you almost want if you Tisdale, you almost come off the field looking at Garfield like, what y'all doing? Y'all messed up your own game plan. You shouldn't have kept that man bracketed because all it takes is one opportunity, and they hit it. So that was a great moment in that game, and it was one of the early backbreakers for Garfield because you make one mistake and the team makes you pay. That's bad, man. That it's hard to recover from it.
They made more than just one mistake.
Yeah, no. Here's the thing. I'll say this about Garfield. And I'll say this about any team that's supposed to be good in these sort of situations. When that boulder starts rolling downhill on you, everything goes to shit. Everything that you have built that season goes away when all of a sudden Naeem Morgan is just and up front, they're just dominating you on both sides of the ball. Because that's the thing that I think probably was a bit of a culture shock for Garfield in this game. Because they played the Roosevelts and the Franklins this year. They played a bunch of teams, and two names that I'm going to mention that I don't think that they've seen. That I don't think that they've seen a combination like this is Bo and Nick Tonga in the middle. Those two dudes lived in the backfield and we're letting Garfield know we come in every play. There's 600 pounds of Tonga in the middle of that line at any given time. And they are ferocious up front. They built like Winnebagos. They are gigantic human beings, and both and not even seniors. So they'll be back next year. But it's just that physicality that Birmingham presented up front, they just weren't prepared for that. They haven't seen it. Like other teams in across the city aren't necessarily built that stout up front, and it killed them. It destroyed the game plan. You go into a game thinking you going to, all right, we're going to our bread and butter. We're going to this play. We're going to that play. And then there's a 300-pound kid who is just eating your center alive. And it's like, well, shit, okay. Well, we was going to we'll go to this one, but I need 2.5 seconds to throw the ball, and I don't have it because 54 is like right here. Like he's standing next to me as soon as we snap it. So, I think this game, the scoreboard will lie to you sometimes, like in terms of not telling you the full story of a game. But good God, man, they just overwhelmed them. It was a tsunami of ass whooping that came in that first quarter, and it wasn't anything Garfield could do about it.
They weren't too put off by it, though. They chose not to stop the clock in the third quarter. No, am I saying that right? They chose to let the clock stop in the third quarter rather than let it run, even though Birmingham was up by 5 scores.
Yeah, they usually give the option to the losing team when it's 35 points. And coming out of the half, and I've seen it at a couple games this season where the officials tell the losing coach, we recommend you run the clock for the entire second half. And it was 35-0 at halftime. And so the thought was, is Garfield going to accept defeat and run the clock for the second half? And the answer was no. And on the sideline, a couple of the Birmingham coaches were kind of talking amongst themselves. They looked at the clock and were like, okay, this is what we want. Now it's time to make a statement. I mean, yes, Birmingham only scored one more time the rest of the game, but they continued to put their foot on the gas.
And from Garfield's perspective, I mean, what are you supposed to do in that moment? This is the Open Division Championship. You're not running. I don't give a shit how many points we down. You're not running a clock on me in the championship. I played at the Coliseum this year. The Black Eyed Peas did. I got a feeling while I was in the locker room at that time. You're not running a clock on me. No, hell no. Listen. If we gonna lay on the, if we gotta lay down, you go out on your shield. You go down fighting. You take that whooping like men. Like it is what it is. Like, no, man. Like you're not running the clock on me. Go ahead and put up 60 because we're gonna keep fighting. Like, and to their credit, they did. They did. And they, they got one touchdown that was earned. The second one at the end, Birmingham was already in post-game celebration mode. So I mean, fine. We'll put
The coach already had ice down the back of his shirt.
Yeah. I mean,
touchdown was scored.
So and at that point, you're down 1,000,000 points. What's another 6? It is what it is. But that team showed some fight. I actually came away with a bit more respect for them that they weren't stopping the clock and they were like, no, we're gonna play this out. We didn't fight all the way here to have this game in the next 20 minutes because we can't play with y'all. Like that sends. First of all, you got a bunch of kids that's coming back next year. What message are you sending to them if you're like, all right, guys, well, we're not better, we're not as good as them, so we got to keep. We're just gonna lay down. Nah, you never lay down. Damn it, the Black Eyed Peas performed at halftime of the East LA Classic. You do not lay down. What would Will.i.am say? How you gonna go back to Boyle Heights?
Where is the love?
Come on, man.
Say.
No, it's all good. The big thing though, it comes back is normally why do the coaches run the clock for the entire second half in a situation like that? They don't want their kids getting hurt.
Yeah, that's true too.
They got more games to play. This is the last game.
No, this is the last one, baby.
So, kudos to them and the coaching staff to be like, no, we're gonna fight in the third quarter, and which ended up happening. The thought is if we can't come back and Birmingham scores again, and then they mandatory run it on us in the fourth quarter. Okay, fine.
It is what it is, yeah.
But they fought through. They scored in the third quarter to make it interesting in the sense of, maybe we're not going to get a running clock. Maybe these quarters are going to take 20, 30 minutes. They fought all the way until there was ice down the Birmingham coach's back twice.
See, and the problem though, and that was one of the moments that I circled was the key moment in that game. You get that score, right? 5:01 on the clock. You get that score. All right. Let's dig in now. Let's play some football. We on the board. All right. All we need is a stop.
That's not what happened.
Naeem Morgan said, "Hey, hold this 38-yarder right. Here you go. I'm out of here. 38 yards. Let's go." And that to me was the moment where you could audibly look on the Garfield sideline and guys were looking around like, damn, man. Like, I don't know what they had to work so hard to get that score and to get on the board. And he came right back and gashed them right at the start of the next drive. So, I mean,
it wasn't even a slow drive by Birmingham. They had two plays. First one was they started on their own 35-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
First one was a run by Morgan for 38, and then the second one was another run by Morgan for 27 straight to the house. Just like that. Like about 30 seconds of game clock had come off the board, and it was just like
not even 25. I wrote it in my notes. 25 seconds.
Just like that.
They needed 25 seconds of game time to say that was cute. Let's get back to business.
Yeah, make sure
Oh
we
man.
have this running clock in the fourth quarter. We want to go home.
Yeah. We got some celebrating to do. Oh man.
No, but I mean, in all seriousness, that congratulations are in order for both teams. I mean, we said it. Birmingham was who they believed they were, and they went out and they proved it. It was a revenge tour against the rest of the media, because these coaches knew that everybody was writing them off. I mean, honestly, the headlines all weekend were, last night, this morning, in what was supposed to be a down year.
If this is their down year, I don't even know what to expect next year. Especially talking about that Waters Tisdale connection. Waters is a junior, Tisdale is a sophomore. Obviously, they'll end up losing Morgan to graduation, but as I hinted earlier, they have this freshman Ronell Hewitt who, up until last night, like had been just as integral to scoring. He's a huge back. He's a young kid. He plays on both sides of the ball, and he's a freshman. Yeah, I don't see too many problems next year. So it's certainly quite a statement to everybody to say, even in our down year, like you wish. And so, yeah, I'd be quite worried, and I would be drawing up schemes on how to stop this team next year, because as they proved last night, they can beat you in multiple ways.
And what I'll tack on to that is the idea that, okay, yes, they're going to lose Morgan, but they got Hewitt, who is there. There's no reason for a freshman to look the way that kid looks. That's stupid. He's huge. He is a huge human being. And obviously next year, projecting forward, obviously everyone's going to be keying on that Waters, that Tisdale to Waters connection. Well, JoJo Adams is on the other side, and while he didn't really get a lot of attention, but he had a punt return that he almost broke in this game too. Like, that kid is dynamic as well. Oh, he'll be back next year, and presumably over the summer. Now you've got a guy that you probably will line up on the other side, and sort of kind of start to build that chemistry with him as well. So you will have a 1-2 punch to go with that freshman running back who's going to be their bell cow. This team this was your chance in the city section before all of these pieces sort of figured it out. And we saw in this run in the postseason, no, it's too late. If you're seeing us in the championship, it's too late. I'm still on the line from Drake. If you're reading this, it's too late. If you're seeing us in the championship, it's too late. We figured it out. And now they've got this thing set up to go for the next couple of years, because they got plenty of talent and still in the tank, even with some of the guys who are graduating and leaving. So
I'm going to segue that. That was perfect, because talking about plenty of talent in the tank, regardless of who's graduating and leaving, that's Granada Hills. And they were the number 1 seed in D1. And they played like the number 1 seed and embarrassed the Palisades team that was missing a key piece. But this is what Granada does. They come out and they hit you in the mouth and they fight you for 48 minutes. They almost knocked out Birmingham. If it wasn't for a 2-point conversion, that game probably would have gone to overtime. And so this Granada team did something that hasn't been done in 35 years. They won a city title. This was their first championship appearance in 35 years. And that's saying something to what Bucky Brooks has built here. Yes, Dijon Stanley gets all the love, and he deserves every ounce of it. I mean, he's going to Utah. I can see him starting as a true freshman. That's how amazing this kid is. But this line is young. Darrell Stanley is a sophomore, and really quickly if Dijon was not on this team, I don't believe Darrell matures and plays the way he has all season. Because we said it early in the season, Darrell looks at Dijon and goes, I can do that. I can do that. I'm just as good as you. Darrell believes in his heart he is at least as good as Dijon. And that has lifted him up to that level of play, because at that point it's a rising tide lifts all ships on that team. People are looking at Dijon and he's doing it, and they're like, I think I can do it. And especially for someone like,
there's a very synergetic competitiveness between the guys on that team, and they really not only play off of each other in terms of trying to one up each other for the common benefit of the whole team, but they also correct each other and hold each other really accountable amongst the players themselves. And the coaches even look to them on the sideline and ask, like, hey, this didn't work. What's going on? And the kids are the ones saying, like, I think this is what we should do. They really take ownership in their style of playing. And you can tell that it permeates through the whole team.
And some of that, and a lot of that is leadership style from the coaches, because they open the door for these kids that have bought into this system. This, what Bucky Brooks has built here is sustainable. And he's shown, you look at this team and there's a lot of youth. On the defensive side, these boys lived in the backfield against Palisades. There was nothing that Oliver Taylor and Chance Hexamer could not do. I mean, they were in there all game. I don't have the defensive stats in front of me, but they had multiple sacks, tackles for loss. There was nothing that Palisades could do to get off the ball. And, that is kind of where you pin yourself, the line. And that line sets it up, and then you give the ball to your amazing talent. And then they just go. And they did it. It was 44-7. I'm going to run off a little bit of numbers here before I let Kaylee run away with this. We talked about Darrell. He had a bit of an off game. There was kind of some chatter that maybe the heat got to him because he got used to playing in the cold.
Mm-hmm.
And now you got kickoff is like 72 degrees and the heat index is almost 80.
Yeah.
So, that's probably what happened. He still had a decent enough game. I mean, he hit, I think, 45 yards. But this was the game where they're like, all right, Dijon, this is a city championship, and we're going to ride you. In all the games I've watched, he never had more than 14 or 15 carries. He had 22. And after 4 carries, he had 160 yards. His first carry of the game, 38 yards, house. Boom. They thought they stopped him the next time he got the ball, 4 yards. No. He had a 41-yarder. And then they got a stop on defense. Palisades punted the ball. And we just watched this thing roll all the way to the 10-yard line. And I'm like, this is going to be interesting. Granada doesn't believe they can be stopped. And I chuckle, I laugh because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They gave the ball to Dijon. He found the crease to the sideline and gone. 90 yards. Like, this man, not a boy, this man is on another level. And he proved it. They couldn't stop him. He had 5 touchdowns. I had him for 292 yards at halftime. just unreal in everything he's done all season. And then, like you said, Kenny, this probably was the icing on the cake for Player of the Year.
When that punt checked up at the 10, I literally in my head was like, all right, cool. Duty's gonna go 90 right here, first play. But I didn't mean it. I was just like, because just how kind of player he is, you wouldn't be surprised. And then, sure enough, one bounce it outside, and the thing with him is once if he's even, he's leaving. You're not catching this kid. It's amazing how it looks like he never gets out of second gear. I'd love an opportunity to see him have to actually try to outrun someone, which obviously when he gets to Utah, the athletes, it's different. You're going to have to see him have to run away from some people when he gets there. But this year, it seemed like at times he never got out of first or second gear because he didn't need to, because he's so smooth in how he runs and just runs away from people that he makes it look easy. So, yeah, I think this was the performance that, like, okay, if there was any question, you do this on this level in the championship game right at the outset. Like I said, we were talking about that 25 seconds in the Garfield game. Yeah, 25 seconds into the game, he's already in the end zone. And Palisades probably – the funny thing about a player like him, right, it becomes a myth, right? Until you play him, you know what you've seen on tape. Players discuss it when they're going through film, and inevitably there's somebody in the secondary that's like, he ain't that fast. I catch him. Now, because as DBs, that's what we think. Like, nobody's faster than me. I can catch him. Like, and then he gets out there, and you're like, oh, I am running as fast as I can, and he is just pulling away. The guy is dynamic, and right from the outside of this game, he showed it.
Yeah. He really had an amazing performance. And I think despite the fact that he maybe didn't get completely out of first, second gear, he was definitely feeling it during the game. He was hot. He was tired. He wasn't even celebrating most of his touchdowns or like anything like that. But he really showed that it doesn't matter what stage he's on, whether it's a home game, whether it's the city championships. And I'm sure this will continue at Utah. He knows what he's capable of, and he's confident in his speed and his ability to get out of the crowd like that. But there was another player who we've been missing the last couple weeks who had an amazing comeback. So I want to give a shout out to Ricky Negrete because he had a really great first couple quarters there. I mean, he had a good game in general, but you really heard his name over the loudspeaker a lot in the first quarter, and the crowd was going crazy. So everyone loved to have him back on the field. He really brought the energy up as per usual, but that was a really exciting game to watch. I always love hanging out on the Granada sideline. Another thing that I noticed this week that I wanted to mention just because I thought it was funny is Coach Brooks always has a green thing in his mouth when he's coaching, and it's a Starbucks stopper. And I wanted to ask him he has to drink so much Starbucks in order to always have one of those. So I asked him what his favorite drink was, and it's a medicine ball. But if I was drinking that many medicine balls before every football game, I would be. So maybe that's the team trick for Granada. Maybe they're drinking medicine balls over there.
I mean, they
Instead of Gatorade.
Yeah, all they running backs run like they all drinking medicine balls all day, because that was one of the themes in this game. Was it felt like Brooks decided that this game was where, I mean, and why not? It's the city championship, right? You don't have that, there's not that many opportunities left this year to kind of open up that full bag of tricks that they have. But there was a point in the game where 5 different ball carriers got the ball on one drive. Like he threw it all out there to let you know, this double wing, I can take any of these parts and interchange them, and you don't know who's getting the ball, which way it's going. Even on the broadcast, the announcer was saying it was hard to keep up with who all was getting the ball because there's a lot of threes in that backfield. There's a lot of numbers back there. They come out, and you would assume that when someone breaks a run, it's always Dijon. It's like, no, it could be Darrell that broke it. It could be DJ Richmond that broke it. It could have been Kanye Martin, which is really, those two are, it's hard sometimes because until you see them, you don't know if the 3 or the 33, but it's because they can both break one on you at any given time. Then they have the guy who's like the 5th of the depth chart and the Lobo who doesn't get the ball off them, but he also has the ability to kind of break runs. They laid it all out there. They put all the bag of tricks out there and showed you just the full depth of what they have in that backfield, and it all worked.
And that depth is what got him here in the first place, because if it wasn't for all the talent that they had moving back, they would probably not have stomped the way that they did over teams like Cleveland in the week prior. So hats off to Granada.
Yeah. And I want to double back on your Ricky Negrete comment, because he stood out as a difference maker on that defense when it seemed like that line was holding Hexamer and Taylor. He was plowing through the middle. There were 2 really big plays when it seemed like Palisades might be putting something together, and I keyed in on the defensive line because I was like, okay, something's going to happen. I just feel it. And there was Ricky creeping up on, and as soon as the ball was snapped, he shot through that line, and he was in the quarterback's face.
Mm-hmm.
Like the energy this kid plays with, the energy everything does. And I talked to him after the game, and he missed 5 weeks with an ankle.
Mm-hmm.
And he was dying to get back. He was chomping at the bit, and he said it was the energy of his teammates that kind of got him through, and just being back on that field and being there with his team took him to another level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the kind of energy. This is a heart and soul kind of kid. You know, yeah, we talk about him joking, we talk about him yapping, we talk about all that, but this is all, you know, that when this kid is got his pads on, he's 100%. And when he was out there for the first time in 5 weeks, he left it all out there. And it was apparent. Like, just if it wasn't coming from the outsides with Hexman and Taylor, it was Negrete. And you know, major props to him. This kid's a senior. And how better to go out, you know, hounding a quarterback, knowing you lived in his backfield and you were in his head, and then you got to raise that championship trophy. So that's amazing on that end. Kudos to him.
Yeah, no, if the Granada football team is an atom, Dijon Stanley's the mitochondria. He's the powerhouse of the cell, but the nucleus is definitely Ricky Negrete, because he brings all that energy.
And there's one other name I want to bring up too while we're talking about that defensive front, and it's a name that kind of gets lost a lot because it's just not a sexy job. It is like, you're not going to get all the fancy TFLs like Ricky Negrete is going to get. You're not going to get the sacks like Oliver Taylor and Chance Hexamer get. But Sean Lopez, that big boy in the middle, number 75 for Granada Hills, his single solitary job every week is to eat a double team and somehow maintain your gap and allow the guys around you to kind of flow and get downhill, because it creates creases when you have to take 2, and depending on who you're playing, you might have to have a third guy help on him because he's just collapsing everything in that offensive line towards the backfield and allowing the guys around him to kind of make plays. It's never a sexy job that's going to get a lot of attention because you're not going to be in the stat sheet a ton of the game, but he eats up everything in the middle. He is just a massive humanity that just every play you have to put two people on him, because if you don't, he would be in the backfield. So I just want to show that the big guy some love, because I'm sure if he listens to this, he's going to be like, man, everybody, yep, I had grizzly bears on me all season long. And it's just because it's just not a job that, and also obviously my son is a defensive tackle in youth football. So I have a special place in my heart for the big guys who have to operate down in there and get mangled all day, all game long. But yeah, big Sean Lopez, shout out to him too, because he's been an integral part of that team. He rarely comes off the field. He'll play he's Iron Man. He plays both ways. So yeah, he's another guy I want to just give some love to, because on one of those plays, he ate a double team, and I think it was on that play that you were talking about when where Ricky kind of timed that blitz perfectly, and he came flying off the snap, because the thing is, the center and the guard have to go to 75 because he's collapsing everything, which just allows this one, when you time it perfectly, to shoot back there and kill everything that you were going to do. So shout out to the big guy. Give you some love too, big fella. We see you out here. We show love to our big guys too.
Yeah, I mean, we show love to everybody. We try to. And you know, for anybody who thinks we're throwing a little bit of shade your way, we're not. We'll tell you if we are. But we're not. And that takes us right into our game of the week. This one was the All Valley matchup, and it was the only one that was going to guarantee us a Valley title. And Panorama versus Kennedy in a rematch from the end of the season. And these two teams left it all on the field. This was a game that lived up to its billing 1,000%. I mean, we've had a couple games we dubbed Game of the Week. And then we look at it afterwards and we're like, man, that was a pasting. You know, but this one, the drama was there, the intensity was there. The fight, the drive, the heart, like all the cliche, it was all there. And Troy Cassidy and Adrian Beltran had their teams ready to play. And it was something. It was definitely something special. I mean, from the beginning, you knew Kennedy was going to come out and run their fast and furious offense. And that's what they did. And the crazy thing is, on the sideline, I was trying to keep track, digitally while I was taking my notes. And there were plays where I was like, screw it. I don't have time. I'll just make sure I got my notes accurate. And then wait for a first down or or a dead ball, so I can get the digital side ready. And then it flowed. And that first drive, they got the ball to the goal line, and I thought they scored. I actually put it down. I was like, okay, Argot with the 1 yard plunge. But apparently, while I was writing it down, I missed the official saying, no, his knee was down before he got the ball across. And that was kind of the theme of the fight. And funny enough, next play after that is fourth down at the goal line. And the snap goes over Argot's head. Yeah. I'm like, man. But that was the first drive of the game. So now Panorama gets it. They've got this momentum. Hey, we just had a successful goal line stand. They couldn't do anything. And I haven't seen Justin Pacheco wrapped up the way he was ever. And he didn't break one run until his 11th carry. But I mean, I was looking at it, I was like 3 yards here, 1 yard there, 5 yards there. Every time I've seen Panorama, Pacheco's pulling chunks 10, 15, 7, 20. Some of it, that line for the two teams was so congested. When Panorama was on offense, Kennedy gave them nothing. This is lesson learned from, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago? And defensively, they were just doing it. And it took a little bit for Panorama to really get going. But Kennedy, second time they got the ball, they went down the field, give it to Argot, let him go. And he broke run after run. And this was the thing that was going through my mind when it was happening. I was like, I don't know how they're going to stop him, because on his first drive, his first carry was 11 yards, right? And then he broke off back-to-back 11-yarders. And then the second drive, he went, 9, 15, 4, 7, and he wasn't the only one carrying it. Lonzo Fuentes Gutierrez, but he didn't have the ball that much either. But it was a change of pace that they were working, and ultimately, end of the first quarter, they're inside the 10. First play of the second quarter, Argot goes in, boom, 7-0. And the teams kind of traded a little bit, and then Panorama got the first break that they were hoping to get. And it was nice. It was everything you can want from a team, that the way they set it up. And it was usually, he's kind of their number 3 option, Adam Pena. He got a ball, found the crease, and it was 34 yards. And there's a minute 40 left in the half at that point. So they went in the half tied, and it was all the evidence was there that it's going to be a dogfight, and Panorama's getting the ball to start the half. And we know what's coming, right? And they marched the field methodically, and then this time it was their quarterback punching it in. This little 1 yard kind of plunged through, and it just stayed back and forth. But this is where the Fast and Furious kicked in, because Kennedy took 2 minutes to run the ball down the field. 2. Just give the ball to Argot and go. I still don't believe it, looking at the numbers, but yeah, just give the ball to Argot and go. And this is the first time I've seen this Panorama defense really actually unable to contain for 4 downs consistently. And it was a testament to Cassidy's work and his coaching staff. It was a testament to the work that the line put in at Kennedy. Testament to Argot saying, give me the damn rock and let me go. Because Cassidy told me after the game that they had told Gabe that he's going to get the ball a little more. And he was like, give it to me. Just give it to me. I don't care. I'll take it. and they gave him the ball 43 times. And the third quarter was the back and forth. Like I said, they scored in 2 minutes. Panorama came back, took the lead, and this is where Pacheco finally broke one at the start of the fourth quarter, 23 yards. And I'm like, okay, He's got it. Panorama had the lead. And then, again, Kennedy left time on the clock this time. They went 4 minutes, and again, Argot running it in, successfully converted the 2-point conversion at this point. So now it's a 1-point game, and the Panorama sideline is like, we can't be doing this again. These kids were like, we have 5 minutes. There's time. There's no way we're doing this again. And they marched the field. They went down into Kennedy territory. They only had 1 timeout left because they had to burn it to get their defense set a couple times against that offense. And they get into the 30, looking like they might get into the red zone, and then the Kennedy defense holds. And this is where I'm hoping you get some kind of wrinkle. But Kennedy held, and I don't blame Coach Beltran. You're looking at the clock. There's not that much time left. It's like 4th and 5. Kick the field goal. Let's do it. And Kennedy blocked it. They got in, they blocked it, and with the time that was left on the clock, 2 knees later, game over. And Kennedy has won their first championship in football. It was bedlam, and these Panorama kids were heartbroken. Dennis Akinle took him a while to regain his composure, but he took it really, really hard. I mean, 2 years in a row for this kid as a senior. Pacheco wasn't taking it very well. All of them, but you looked at their 2 kind of leaders on the offensive side, and they were just gutted. Flip to the other side, and the pandemonium. These kids put in all that work. They believed after the loss to Panorama at the end of the regular season that they would meet again. And Kenny, you've said this a couple times, that it really seemed like after that loss, they were gearing up and saying, we're going to meet again, and it's going to be different. And I mean, it was.
The things that I took away from that first meeting really sort of bore out in this Kennedy playoff run. When they lost that game at the end of the regular season, they did not play poorly. Despite the coming up on the short end of a 28-14 score, to a man, that staff, from the players on down, it might have been their most confounding effort of the season, because they felt like they played well. When I was talking to the staff, when I was talking to players on the team, they felt like they played well, but they got beat by 4 big runs in the second half. Because here's the thing. That first game was a tale of 2 games, like we talked about a month ago. Kennedy dominated the first half. Second half, Panorama kind of figured out what they were doing, found a way to shut it down. They hit the big plays. They hit the big runs, and they 28 unanswered. They won the game. Coming into this one, they knew already, and I'm sure that became the focus, for the postseason, is they played sound against Panorama the first time, but they weren't physical enough. They weren't physical enough at the point of attack. They weren't physical enough in their run game to really kind of help mitigate some of the things that were going on in terms of Panorama being able to kind of shut them down and stifle them. And they weren't playing with the pace that we saw them play with during the postseason. Argot clearly was the focus of in this game, because, like I said, I had dubbed him and Alonzo Fuentes Gutierrez too fast, too furious, because it had been a 2-man attack. One gets it, they both lining up in the pistol and or the Wildcat, whatever you want to call it. They're getting a direct snap. They're letting those big boys pave the road in front of them, and then they just switching off. That wasn't the case in this game. This game was on our guy. And why? Because going up against Panorama, again, it's not enough to just be sound against this team. They're okay with a team being sound against them. They can stifle sound. They ain't worried about if you playing discipline. That's fine. You're gonna play discipline, and you're still not going to be able to move the ball, or you're still not going to be able to finish drives. Physical that gets you nowhere. When they played the first time in the second half, Kennedy was going through their normal offense, and then they would punt. They would get in third and short situations. They play a little conservative, and they'd end up punting it away. And the next thing you know, Panorama started grinding the game away. You could tell the game plan for this game was they're going to play our pace. We played their style of game the last time. They're going to play our style of game this time because we're coming back, and we're going to take our big, bruising, battering ram of a running back. We're going to give him the ball 40-plus times, and we're going to do that shit fast. We're going to run the ball, and before y'all could even substitute, before you could call a different defense, before you can even pick your guy off the ground, our line is already set, and we waiting for the referee to place the ball because we getting ready to snap this shit again. And they did it over and over and over again. To Beltran's credit, he tried to use his timeouts in a way to kind of break that momentum because you couldn't stop them from running the ball. Because he burned like 2 timeouts like in that first quarter, in the first half, because just trying to all right, if we can't physically just stop you, we're going to stop the game right here. Let my kids get a breather. Let's reset. And it kind of worked. They were able to kind of hold him. They were kind of able to Kennedy was still moving the ball, but it helped them be able to kind of dig their heels in. Like I said, they caught a break on that first drive when the ball went over Argott's head. So they ended up not getting points there. And then they got points towards the end of in the second quarter or whatever. But you can tell that was going to be the Kennedy game plan. You guys got to play our game. We're coming fast, and we're going to be physical. We're going to punch y'all in the face, and we're going to punch y'all in the face repeatedly, really, really fast. That's what y'all are going to deal with. The fact that we are coming at you at such a ferocity that it's going to force you guys to have to make some business decisions. You're going to have to sell out on some of these third downs and try to load the box and maybe try to stop us and hope we don't break one on you, because that's just the way this game was going to go. All gas, no brakes. And the thing that I also wrote is you got to learn from – if you don't learn from your mistakes, you're going to repeat them, right? I know I screwed that statement. I screwed the old saying, but you know what I mean. You got to learn from things that didn't work for you the first time. That's what I'm saying, damn it. You got to learn from what didn't work for you the last time. They played so conservative in that second half in that first meeting in the regular season. They punted the ball every time. They didn't push they started the game that way, but then the second half, it was very un-Cassidy-like in terms of the amount of risk that they took. The fact that when it was 21-14 and they went down the field and they scored, there wasn't even a thought of we're playing for a tie here. No, we're going to make them have to beat us. Either by stopping us here, and then we got to figure out the rest of the game from there, or we're going to get this 2-point conversion, and now y'all got to figure out how to win this game. Because last time he left it on the table, in my opinion, he left a little bit desired on the table in that second half, where there were opportunities to kind of maybe go for it, open up the playbook. And again, like I said, there were points in this postseason where we saw Cassidy do that. That game against Jefferson, where it's a 6-3 game, it's back and forth, and my man pulls out a fake punt. A fake field, goes for a touchdown. He wasn't playing around in this playoffs. Either we're going to win the whole damn thing, or we're going to lose by going for using everything that we have been working on up to this point this season. We have to leave it out here on the table. You don't win champion. No one gifts you a championship. You got to go get that damn thing. And that's what he did. It wasn't even a thought. There wasn't even a look on the sideline of should we kick it? Because normally they score. And a lot of situations, you see Steven Garcia come trot out, if he's not on the field already, lining up for that field goal. No, they scored that touchdown, and our guy never moved. He went right back to lineup. Let's go for 2, because we're going to win this game right here, or we're going to put ourselves in position to win this game. Now, Panorama had the ball And you can argue forever about play calling, this, that, and the third. At the end of the day, it's up to the players on the field to kind of make plays. So I don't want to harp on so much of what Panorama didn't do right, because like I said, they stuck within their identity, and then they took their shot. They have a 45-yarder that goes in. We're not even having a conversation about what they should or could have done differently. That ball goes through the uprights. If it doesn't get blocked, potentially we're talking about them, them hoisting their first ever championship. You got to go for what you got to go for. You got to do what you feel is best in that moment as a coach, and I can't fault them for that. But this game to me really did boil down to Kennedy really learning from the mistakes of that matchup, and there were so many things they changed and did differently in terms of they and again that their defensive front played well in that first matchup. It was just you missed some tackles, and now Dennis McKinley is off to the races, which he was a couple of times in this game, but not to the degree in which he kind of broke their backs that first matchup. They held Justin Pacheco in check. They had to go to their third option at running back because they couldn't get him. They couldn't really get him in this game. So, it's hats off to Kennedy. They had to go out there and take that championship from Panorama. They had to. And they ended up pulling it off. So congrats to them. Congrats to that coaching staff. First ever city championship for Kennedy. And they still got a lot of meat on that bone coming back for next year to kind of do it again. So congratulations to them.
Yeah. And congratulations to all of them. It was amazing. And the performances we saw this weekend were amazing. And that's going to lead us into the player of the week. And because we debated a little bit, and ultimately we believed it's going to go to somebody we haven't given it to before. I'm going to let Ricky take it when we name it. It's Naeem Morgan and everything he did yesterday, Saturday night. He gets the distinction. He's player of the week. And then we'll jump into honorable mention afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Morgan really put on quite the performance. He helped Birmingham maintain possession of the ball for most of the game. In the first half, he, as I mentioned earlier, had 225 yards on 13 carries. He, could be that bowling ball back, just moving the line of scrimmage, just 5, 6, 7 yards at a time. He also can rip these huge, game-changing plays to move the ball all the way down the field into the red zone. He found the end zone, 3 times in the first half, once in the second half for a total of 4 touchdowns. He really was the difference in this game, and really just didn't make it close. As we mentioned, there was maybe a little bit of hope that Garfield came out in the second half. Birmingham looked a little flat-footed, wasn't able to score on their first possession. Garfield took advantage in a long drive, scored, and Morgan just came right back and just put the entire game to bed. And so, yeah, I think he's extremely deserving. He's been a crucial part to changing Birmingham's identity. He came in as a transfer from Las Vegas this season, had been playing wide receiver before that, and ends up becoming a running back. So really just all props to him for adapting to the needs of his team and really putting on quite an impressive performance last night.
Yeah, and it was something to witness. And that goes to the next 2 honorable mentions in terms of individuals. And these were individual efforts of Herculean stature. Dijon Stanley, 22 carries, 367 yards, and 5 touchdowns. every time we blinked, it seemed like he was breaking one. He had the 91-yarder. He had a 31-yarder. He had a 46-yarder. And that 46-yarder, when he got chased down on the sideline, I'm not going to call it out, but he got called out. And it was like, man, I'm older and whatever else was said. And he's like, I could have outrun that guy. And Dijon just kind of was like, I ran. And yeah, he didn't get out of second gear probably all game. He was still probably feeling the effects of running the ball as much as he was. But he had it. And they couldn't stop him. And that's why they call him He Gone, right? Give him the ball, makes a cut, finds a hole, and he gone. And that was all game. I mean, his last carry was a 44-yard touchdown. So just amazing by him. And then the other individual honorable mention that I have is Gabe Argott. 43 carries. And I talked to Cassidy after the game and I told him, and he was like, 43? I knew we gave him the ball a lot, but I was like, yeah, 43 carries. And, he confirmed with me, right after. He's like, yeah, well, we told him we might need to give him the ball a little more, just based on what they were trying to do, especially considering the bruising nature of that game coming up. And his response was, give me the ball. I don't care, just give me the ball. I'll do it. And he did it. 43 carries, 232 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He was their offense. They had 22 points. He had all 22 points. So definitely deserving of that honorable mention there. And I know you guys got some more that are not individuals. So take it away.
Yeah. So because it's championship week, I just want to throw a couple, just some names out there. Obviously, Oliver Taylor and Chance Hexman. You gotta throw them in there. They were demons out there. They made life miserable for Palisades. At the same time, doubling back to the Birmingham game, the Tonga brothers were everywhere in that game. They, just like Hexamer and Taylor, these guys had their thumbprints all over that miserable offensive performance for Garfield, because those guys just can dominate you on any given snap, any given play, and they make life easier for the second and third levels behind them. So want to give love to them there. And you know what? Despite a losing effort, I want to give a shout out to Dennis Akinley. He did everything you could have asked for him in that game for Panorama. He had big runs. He broke big runs for him. He tried to carry the offense for him. He had big plays on defense. He was a demon out there on the defensive end and had a big sack that mucked up a drive for Kennedy. So he was everywhere for them. So even in a losing effort and a 1-point game, there's going to be heroes on the other side as well. He steps up. He stuck out as a big player for Panorama, and I wish him well in the future. I hope he stays with it. I hope he gets a chance to play at the next level. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in that young man. He is big. He hasn't played a ton of football, and there's a lot of untapped potential there. So if there were scouts that watched that game, you need to go tap that young man and give him an opportunity to play at the next level, because there's a lot of meat on that bone with this kid. So no, those are the names I've thrown out there.
All right, and with that, we put a bow on a amazing season in terms of regular and section championships. There are going to be some bowl games for the 4 champions, including Sierra Canyon. Potentially, we might have a couple home games for these teams. We will not know until a couple hours after we're currently done recording. But we will have a breakdown for that once we have it, once we know what's going on. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And congratulations to all you guys, every single one of you. We started this because of you, because you deserve a spotlight. And we wanted to show you love. And that's what it is. This is all love. Every week, week in, week out, we see the blood, sweat, and tears. We see you leave it all out on the field. And congratulations. You all had amazing seasons. I mean, and those of you that feel very disappointed with the way it finished, if you're not a senior, you bring around it back next year. And if you were a senior, hold it. That in a little bit, you're going to look back and the disappointment's going to fade, and you're going to realize that you had an amazing run. As someone who played back in the day, Kenny can attest. Kaylee ran track. She was, we look back on those days fondly, regardless of how they ended. And give it some time. Lick your wounds. Let it sink in. But eventually, you're gonna look back, and it's not gonna sting. And you guys all did something amazing. You got to play a game you love, and you gave us a show week in and week out, and we tried to give you one back.
Yeah, so only thing I'll add to that is, leave a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when these things come up, because like I said, this football season is ending. Show don't stop. We rolling right into the winter sports. We rolling, and then from there, we're going to roll into the spring sports. We're still going to be here bringing you all the action, everything you need to know. Y'all going to see me out there. Girls basketball is my beat. You'll see you see me hovering around, watching all our girls in the valley do their thing as well. So, and like I said, what I'll add to what Arshavir was saying, yeah, it's gonna sting this week, but you'll look back and these will be the best times of your life. And even for some of these kids that ended up winning a championship, like these kids at Panorama, it's gonna sting to get this close 2 years in a row. But you guys, wherever this Panorama program goes for the next decade, it was built on the backs of you guys. And you're always going to be welcome back at your school. Alumni night is going to be popping when you show up because everybody's going to remember the things that you did and kind of laying the groundwork for the school that you were at. So it's going to suck now. But when you look back at it, you're going to be proud of everything you've done. And we're going to, and like Arshavir said, we're going to keep bringing this stuff to you. Oh, also, look out for our year in review special. We're going to do our year in review. We're going to review the whole season in totality. I'm going to come up with some interesting awards for us to give out. And we're going to put a nice cap and bow on this thing. It'll probably come after the bowl season in case we got to talk about some of these bowl games, but we'll look out for that. And then look out for our basketball coverage and everything else we got going. Just make sure you tune in to what we're doing because it don't stop here.
And some of those my real superstars that are in all those reels I have up there, I know you kids are playing basketball, so please keep that ball rolling, and we're gonna do the same.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, like we talked about, Peyton Waters had a 70-yard touchdown. You can go watch him in that Birmingham gym this week. Getting buckets. So yeah, it don't stop for these high school athletes. It ain't gonna stop for us either. We're gonna keep this thing rolling. We're gonna bring you everything you need to know about what's going on with our team, with our schools in the Valley, because the Valley is dominating. If you didn't know, just look at what we just did in the city section. 3 of the 4 championships were right here. We were very close to having all 4 of them being right here, but we got 3 out of the 4 for 2 years in a row. So we doing things out here in the Valley. It's more than LA. We are becoming the epicenter of what you want, what high school, what prep sports is. You got to start here first. So, and who's going to be there to cover it all? These guys, us. VST. So make sure you follow us and leave a like and subscribe and go hit us up on Instagram. Check out what we're doing there. We got digital content coming up, valleysportstelegram.com. We got stories after story after story after story. We highlighting all these kids. So like I always tell you, make sure you tell your abuelita, you make sure you tell your grandma, make sure you tell your aunts and uncles, make sure the teachers at the school that you don't like, and when they're asking you why you tired today, because I was balling last night, go read the story about me. It's right there on valleysportstelegram.com. Make sure you tell everybody about all of this. I keep telling y'all every week, you don't know what you're missing out on if you don't go and check it out. We got so much stuff. It's all going, and it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the platform we're trying to provide for our kids is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm done.
The Black Eyed Peas would want you to show love. So keep showing us love. We'll keep showing you love.